Okay, and let's get into a bit more detail of what that might look like. We already talked about that the process is very customizable, and it needs to be that way because of the wide variety of goals women would have, which is most important. But what would the first session look like in this
Right.
triad, and how would that experience kind of continue on?
Right. So the very first session is actually would be me sitting down with the client and the therapist, all three of us in a room, and talking about the goals, introducing myself, establishing a rapport with the client and the therapist. So we all know that we can talk freely amongst ourselves.
Mhm.
That's when it works the best, is when we have a really good exchange of information.
Okay.
That also maybe the very first time that I've had interactions with a client. So that's me sitting in a room and saying, I'm an individual that you can have these conversations with, and it's safe and comfortable.
Mhm.
Um, Going there, the person that I have with a client often is information gathering and establishing a rapport. But the context is shifted because the therapist is no longer there, right? There isn't someone that has the established relationship and the trust. And sometimes, especially for clients that have histories of trauma, just stepping in the room with me is going to be a difficult process. One of the things that is wonderful about surrogate partner therapy is it's a very slow, mindful process. So we don't step into the room and be like, okay, let's start doing this thing right now. Take your pants off. That's not how it works at all.
Imagine that. That would be
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that, like, even in the medical community is normalized, right? You come in, we're going to address the physiological issues without really any regard to what's going on emotionally or psychologically.
Mhm.
Um, so what we do is we start really slowly just by establishing a rapport with people that I work with. We might do a sexual history interview. So we talk about how they view their own sexuality, whatever their challenges are at the moment. You know, anything as far as like how they grew up, how their parents taught them sexuality, like what healthy sexuality was supposed to be.
Mhm.
Um, and going from that background, we start to establish a couple of things. We have some very good communication skills that we start to build. And also, in parallel with those communication skills, we start working on somatic self-awareness, of body awareness.
Okay.
Um, for the communication skills, one of my favorite exercises in all of surrogate partner therapy is what we call "May I, Will You,"
Mhm.
where we sit down and we ask each other "May I" or "Will you" questions, but they're in very strict containers.
Mhm.
If you'd like me to go into that, I'd be happy to geek out a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
we can
oh,
totally jump
okay.
into that. And before we do, I just wanted to mention the movie that you had recommended on our last call called The Sessions,
Mhm.
where it was just like boom, boom, boom. Okay,
Right,
I'm here. Like, let's do
right.
it. And if anybody has had introduction to surrogate partner therapy through media like that, in a movie, let's say in particular, for anybody listening, just know it's not like that. It's
It's
slow,
not, no.
it's safe, and safety is such a big part of surrogate
Right,
therapy.
right. And one of the things I usually direct people to, rather than the sessions, as if they are really curious about starting the process,
Mhm.
is there's a beautiful piece that Lisa Ling did for CNN in 2018, I think, um, fall of 2018, where she interviewed a surrogate partner and two of her clients, and they really talked about the process. And the clients spent a lot of time talking about what they came into the process thinking it was, and how their view of healthy sexuality shifted. It's a deeply moving piece. It's very informative, and I definitely suggest that over whatever popular media would give you.